Hello guys. After months, and I'm really sorry about this. Of course, I would have loved to review the books I've been reading, but I've got a lot of things going on in my life right now, as per usual, but even more now. I would like to thank Joseph Francis Burton because he gave me a shout out in his review of Behaviour by Huysmans. I have yet to read that book, but thank you so much for giving me that shout out. I will also put the link to this review he did on the description of the video. It's always great hearing someone reasonable talking about great books. Well, people have been complaining about the sound on my videos. I'll try to buy a better one when I can, but for now this one will have to do. I would also like to include that I'm thinking of launching a Patreon for people who would like to either have a chat with me about books, so I can also share many of the things I learned about linguistics and literature and other cultural things that are interesting to me, but it could also be interesting to the people who are watching these videos and also who like the same books I do. I would also like to have the opportunity to share more things about art, because being in Europe, I feel like I have the chance to visit many museums with many interesting things, and I don't usually post them on social media much, but I do take note of them and take pictures of it, so it would be nice to have a platform in which I could share. And also because, well, I've been very busy working now, so if I could do something, so the videos that I'm doing, which is something I actually do because I really like as a hobby, but if I could have any sort of support from it, that would be great. In case I do pretty soon, I'll put it here also on the description. This being said, let's get down to business. The book is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I have many feelings of attachment towards this book because the first time I read it, I might have been around 11, 12. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. It was a bit before Ray Bradbury died, which was 2012, so it was around that time. Back then, my father didn't really like me reading books because there's plenty of things going on back in my family in which I don't want to get into now, but he did burn our books, me and my twin sister's books. So that was quite something to me because I was reading a book about burning books, and that was what was happening to me. It has something to do with religious fanaticism and things like this. And funny enough, even though my father burned my books, I am happy enough to say that this book was gifted to me by my boyfriend's father, Hui, and thank you very much, Hui. So even though I have a father who burned my books once, I do have a father-in-law who gifts me books, and that makes me very happy. Ray Bradbury was born in August 22 of 1920, and he died on the 5th of June of 2012. And he was a huge fan of science fiction and horror, and it shows. I know this book can be quite naive for an adult reader, and to me even it seems a bit like that at times, but I really like its essence. And especially having gone through many things while I was reading this for the first time, and also the second time, and also now, it was very interesting because many things are happening to our world or kind of happening there. So basically, Guy Montag is a firefighter, but he doesn't put the fire out. He sets books on fire because books make people fight and get into arguments and things like that and so on. Until one day he meets this girl called Clarisse, a young girl that's walking around the streets, and she's noticing the things around her and the nature and the rain. And for their dystopian society, this is not quite something that people do. People are always distracted by their screens, by their auricular earphones or shells, like they call it. They are always distracted by very quick entertainment. And this girl is allowing herself not to be entertained by cheap, quick things, but trying to indulge and interact with the things around her and learn from it. He notices that she's a bit eccentric, and they start talking, And then she asks him if he's happy. That question gets stuck in his mind, and he keeps asking himself over and over if he's truly happy, like he said. So first thing, he gets back home and he's very irritated with the question. Of course I'm happy. What does she think? I'm not? He has the quiet rooms. He's still looking up at the ventilator grill in the hall and suddenly remembered that something lay hidden behind the grill, something that seemed to peer down at him now. He moved his eyes quickly. Montag has a wife, but he doesn't really interact with his wife. He doesn't even remember how he met his wife. It's not something that he goes through over and over again in his mind. It's something that happened to him, but he doesn't have any recollection at all. He cannot even fathom what connected both of them at first. And then he keeps thinking of how this very brief contact, this very brief conversation he had with that girl already stirred something inside of him. What incredible power of identification the girl had. She was like the eager watcher of a marionette show, anticipating each flicker of an eyelid, each gesture of his hand, each flick of a finger, the moment before it began. How long had they walked together? 3 minutes? 5? Yet how large that time seemed now. How immense a figure she was on the stage before him. What a shadow she threw on the wall with her slender body. He felt that if his eye itched, she might blink. And if the muscles of his jaw stretched imperceptibly, she would yawn long before he would. So he starts having this feeling of how the girl already perceives what he's planning to do or so, or the things that are tormenting his mind at the moment. And something interesting also that I find in here is the contact we are losing with people, because people are more and more into their phones. We spend a lot of time in screens. And then also when you're out with your friends and with people, many of the people nowadays get constantly distracted by notifications on their phone about outside stuff that doesn't really add to the connection, to the bond you can create with real people. Also, he begins to feel like he's this sort of stranger, and every time he's together with his wife is constantly with these screens around the house, and then she interacts with them, and then she has these interactive soap operas. But at the same time, when Montag starts paying attention to it, he realizes there's no real plot. And even if he asks his wife is not capable of saying what is it about. It's just a lot of nonsense that keeps being talked over and over again. And many times these things are summed up. They are not very long. It's just quick, useless entertainment things that keeps a person's mind blank. So they won't think, because that's what the government wants in this case and other cases as well. Talking to this family of hers, which are these soap operas and screens in which she can interact. And isn't this familiar? Things without plot, endless entertainment, short, summed up versions of things. It really takes me to the way Reels and TikTok and Shorts work nowadays. The curious thing for me is that in the dystopian world Bradbury created, this was something that only happened mostly at home. People were entertained while they were connected to their screens at home. But we have this everywhere we go nowadays, because we have this little flat portable thing that takes and sucks all of our time out of us, and that we cannot just choose to simply live without, because all of our things are in there. The payments we have to do, the people we know, how we call each other, the maps. I wonder how many people would be able to get around if energy simply was put down all at once. How many things we would be able to start from scratch once again. How much of our knowledge will be handed to AI, to a certain point in which there's not a single human being who will be able to recreate the things we already got. So it's curious to think about that. Basically, all of our lives are being kept inside these little demon devices. And the thing about technology is that if anything ever happens, it's to the energy and to the data we are keeping, and it simply disappears. All of our lives will disappear as well, in a sense. Or I'm being very stupid, but there's a chance, there's always a chance. I wouldn't say that's not an option. Of course, I know very little about technology, but it's one of the reasons I like to keep physical media, physical books. On and again, he keeps meeting Clarisse, and she talks about how she's not very well accepted with the other kids because she's a bit different from them. And these other kids are very violent. So this violent youth and people being very harsh into each other. But Clarisse did have a family who apparently was reading and already had issues with the firemen because they read. So we see that she's a little bit more peculiar compared to the others. She says, I'm afraid of children my own age. They kill each other. Did it always used to be the way? My uncle says no. 6 of my friends have been shot in the last year alone. 10 of them died in car wrecks. I'm afraid of them, and they don't like me because I'm afraid. My uncle says my grandfather remembered when children didn't kill each other, but that was a long time ago when they had things different. They believed in responsibility, my uncle says. But most of all, she said, I like to watch people. Sometimes I ride the subway all day and look at them and listen to them. I just want to figure out who they are and what they want and where they're going. This is really fun to me because this is the type of joy and entertainment she finds in life by observing people, which is very different from the other kids. In here, she's talking about the things that she likes, and then she starts talking about the reason why she doesn't get along with the other kids. And well, let me get it to you to this part. Sometimes I sneak around and listen in subways, or I listen at soda fountains. And do you know what? People don't talk about anything. Oh, they must. No, not anything. They name a lot of cars or clothes or swimming pools mostly and say how swell. But they all say the same things and nobody says anything different from anyone else. Doesn't that sound similar to what we live now more and more? I don't know if it's just like something about being against the times a person is living in, but it seems that more and more, because of the algorithm, consuming empty content and then just buying things because that's what social media is trying to do to you, sell things over and over again, and then buying these things and not feeling anything. But then you have to talk to people about the things you own, about celebrities that won't change anything in your life, that don't have any sort of substantial type of art, that is really a sort of empty art, which I'm not here to judge to these things. I also have the sort of things that I think are trivial, but it's just a very quick type of entertainment. But how are you feeding your mind with the things you consume? How much of your time are you wasting away with the things that won't fill you up? Okay, all along with this, there's a war going on in the background. Sounds familiar again? Yes, there's a few wars going on, and well, people just keep pretending this is not here. They just keep swooping it away and trying to say that everything's going to be fine. And I would say that many people don't even care to check the news on the war. And I don't know if they are doing well by doing that, because if you don't read about the war, maybe you don't get so stressed and anxious or anything like that. But also you're choosing to be unaware of it because you don't want to ponder about the current political state our world is in. So they hear the bombs, they hear the war going on around them, but they don't care enough to discuss it. It's like there's an elephant in the room for the entire population, and they just don't talk about that. And I would say I definitely felt a lot more tension on these parts now, because we have a possible third world war coming our way, and I felt a lot more tension now towards this than I did when I was younger, because when I read it the first time, a possibility of a global war was something very far away. It was something unimaginable. But now I'm not so sure. I feel like, I like all book reviews, I have to mention this one, but I feel like Hermann Hesse and the Steppenwolf, very close to something that could or could not be, but if it is. Every hour, so many damn things in the sky. How in hell did those bombers get up there every single second of our lives? Why doesn't someone want to talk about it? We started and won 2 atomic wars since 1960. Is it because we are having so much fun at home we forgot on the world? Is it because we're so rich and the rest of the world so poor and we just don't care if they are? I've heard rumors the world is starving, but we're well fed. Is it true the world works hard and we play? Is that why we're hated so much? I've heard the rumors about hate too once in a long while over the years. Do you know why? I don't, that's sure. Maybe the books can get us half out of the cave. They just might stop us from making the same damn insane mistakes. I don't hear those idiot bastards in your parlor talking about it. God, Millie, don't you see? An hour a day, 2 hours with these books, and maybe... This is a part in which he's trying to make his wife read and put something in her mind, and how they keep ignoring that the war is going on. I think that's the state, maybe with the US right now, and how you could see rich countries who've been ignoring many types of conflicts going on around, but now we see some protagonism in it again on the news. And this first unawareness of the other people's situation, we can clearly see this with the things that happened when there were some bombings in Dubai, because many influencers were talking about like, oh, this can't happen here, they're ruining our lives, but they don't care about the conflict going elsewhere. It's always this thing about this shouldn't happen to us, it can't happen here until it does. So there are many parts on the book that they make these reflections about the importance of reading and how to keep these thoughts that are a lot more complex alive. Because in linguistics, my field, we understand the importance of making this comparison between oral speech and also written speech or written works, because we are able to pass down complex thoughts through conversation, but a literary work has been thought over and over again and rethought over and over again by its author and rewritten over and over again to points in which you can be even more specific with what you were trying to pass down as a complex idea. And it's important that people are able to interpret these things, because it seems to me that many people are so afraid of reading nowadays, or they think that if you're reading, you're just being performatic, or if you're with a book somewhere, you're being performatic. I don't care about someone being performatic. I just hope that at some point they will really pick down that thing and start reading. And that's the importance of carrying a book everywhere as well. And when you sit down, sometimes at places, people will think you're trying to show off that you're reading. That's not something to show off, really. I think that's like a basic thing that people should do for themselves. I think reading is as important as going to the gym and eating healthy stuff and drinking water. And it's one of the best things human beings have developed, so you can really identify yourself with something, with a real personality, with who you are, the context in which you are in, and try to talk to that message you've been receiving, trying to really figure out where you stand. As there's a part that they talk about how they didn't really need to force people to stop reading. Not many reading anyways, and the ones that were were being a nuisance to the government. So of course they wanted to exterminate that for all at once. But they do talk about something that I found very, very interesting for this time now, which is the summing up of books. Because I remember I saw somewhere, I don't remember if it was in Portuguese, in English, which language was it, but it was like a thread in which people were discussing how you can read many, many books a year. First, it's not important that you read books super fast. I think the quality of a book is you reading it at your own pace and really taking in the things you're reading. It's not a competition of how many books you read a year, but how much were you able to ponder and absorb while you were reading that. At least that's my opinion, of course. But in between that, they were saying that you can read many books a year by asking ChatGPT or any AI model to summarize all of it, as if it were going to be the same thing as you taking the book and reading it slowly and creating your own thoughts of each of those things and making your own interpretations and have this sort of dialogue with the text you're going through. And yes, it's just like how they were reading books in Fahrenheit. Okay, so here's something I prepared as my script for the video, and I would like to say exactly as I wrote it because I think it's very convenient to say it that way. Performative reading and the act of reading itself being offensive to others because they think you're trying to seem intellectually superior when you're really just trying to entertain yourself. I think that's a secret, using this as something that entertains you. Understanding that books are entertainment. They are not a duty, they are not a thing to show off, they are something to treat your mind. And yeah, I won't conclude talking about the story exactly of the book, more about the message and what I got from it, because I think people should go and read it themselves, and also because I think I give too many spoilers and make a more in-depth analysis of the book rather than a review, so I think I should change that. And the other books I've read during this time was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moschfleck. That's the next book I'll be reviewing as soon as I have time to record it and edit. The other book I read was Vignette by Hesse. I read it in Italian because I bought it in Italy, so Camminare. It talks about traveling and basically Anthony Bourdain's entire idea of be a traveler, not a tourist. And well, Demian by Hesse, which is the first book I ever read by Hesse, also when I was a teenager, and it was great it was great to read it once again. I can't wait to review it again. And at last, this is the book I currently picked up. It was recommended to me by my friend Julia, and well, I mean, I don't usually choose books by being the prettiest one because usually I'm going to fuck them up. But, I mean, look at this. I would like a poster of it, and I'll get one when I can, to put on my wall because this is fantastic. And it does remind me as well of Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse in concept from what I read and what she told me about it. But I think I should go read and see, right? It's by Mikhail Bulgakov. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching this review. It's not as well prepared and well edited than the other videos, but it's what I can do for the moment, and I do it with passion and love for the game. So, thank you very much, have a nice one, and see you on my next book review.
Sem ela não há paz, não há beleza, é só tristeza e a melancolia que não sai de mim, não sai de mim, não sai. Mas se ela voltar, que coisa linda.